Ladies and gentlemen, today is April 23rd, 2015, and this is the KNKL show. I know it said 224, but it is actually 225, and today is Thoughtful Thursday, where we like to reflect upon our lives, contemplate what we have done, the evil things we have done, and think of ways to forge ahead and move on to a life of balance, a life of yin and yang, and all that good stuff. And today we're going to be talking about, I'm not saying you're all evil, by the way, that's just a joke. It's a joke. Today what we're going to be talking about is the two pains of life. The two pains of life. And those are the pain of discipline and the pain of having gum in your mouth. Hang on. The pain of discipline and the pain of regret. But before we get into that, I have a couple announcements to make. One of which, the Jinx painting is now complete. So if you'd like to go check it out, here I'm going to go ahead and grab this link. I'm going to post that in the chat. Go check out Jinx right there. And last but not least, thank you guys so much for your support on the Patreon. As usual, it means so much that you guys are willing to support the show. And hey, look, we just released the Jinx PSD on there. So if you're interested in my layers of mystery, you can subscribe to the show, support it, and you can download my PSDs, get unreleased footage, and all that good stuff. All right. It's enough shameless plugging. Let's go ahead. Oh, yeah. And by the way, you can go to the Patreon by clicking that link if you're on YouTube. And if you're on Twitch, I just posted it in the chat. Oh, man, I am on fire today. I'm just feeling good. Let's go ahead and move on into the talk. All right. So the pain of discipline and pain of regret. This entire talk, or basically the theme of this talk, was introduced to me by a man by the name of Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, I'm sure you guys have heard of him. He's a very famous motivational speaker, and for those of you who know me, I love to listen to motivational speeches. I like to think positive. I like to strengthen my mentality, because as artists, we all know that we are very susceptible to the opinions of the outside world. We're very susceptible to being self-conscious. Sometimes we wonder if we're good enough. Sometimes we wonder if we can really make it to where we want to go. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so the pain of discipline, pain of regret. So let's talk about what those things are. I'm sure you can kind of guess what they're all about. And I'd like to illustrate it with a story, okay? So let's say that you are, let's say you are growing up in the 90s, right? And you are playing games such as, like Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis, and Earthworm Jim, and, Super Mario World, and all that stuff. And you might look at those things, and I remember looking through the manuals, and I would see the artwork that was created for these games and the concept art, and I was like, whoa, this is so amazing. I don't even know how they do that. Like, what program are they using to make these characters look like that? They were all, like, rendered, and, like, the color was all perfect. I knew they definitely weren't doing it with colored pencils, like I was working with, right? So I was like, they're doing something, right? They're working digitally. Digital world. And so I knew that one day, if I wanted to do something like that, I too was going to have to learn how to work digitally. I was going to have to learn how to, well, first of all, I was going to have to learn fundamentals. I was going to have to learn to draw. I was going to have to learn to become an artist, find a style, and basically come into my own, okay? Now, there's two different things about this. There's two different ways to go about this, because oftentimes I hear people come to me and they say, Keenan, I did want to be an artist at one point, but I feel like, my life just got away from me. I got really busy. And then, now I got like a family, or I got to take care of, my kids, or I got to take care of this and that. And I just feel like time has passed me by. And those specific words, when they're uttered by a human mouth, those are the manifestation of the pain of regret. The pain of regret, the pain of lost time, the pain of knowing that you had an opportunity and then you missed it. But, however, I will say that even if you are in a position where you feel that you're a bit trapped, or you feel that you can't go out and pursue a passion, sometimes you can feel like you get locked in with a certain job, but there is a passion. There's something that you wanted to pursue, but you never did. I want to urge you to understand that day never actually goes away. That actually never goes away. You're never fully trapped or stuck in something, okay? There's always a way out. That's what I believe. So you want to make sure that you don't, listen to the pain of regret, because, the manifestation, when you're saying those things, it is truthful, right? You wish that you would have taken those opportunities. You wish you would have taken more time to do your artwork, or taken more time to develop your skill, whatever it is, whether it's like guitar. I mean, I'm just an amateur guitar player, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not going to get to the end of my life and have the pain of regret that I was like, oh man, I was never a rock star like I wanted to be. I never played for millions of people in front of the crowd, because here's the other thing, is that I know why I enjoy playing guitar, and it's for a bunch of reasons. There's a bunch of values that go into doing stuff like that, and I realized that I can fulfill those things by doing my show, right? I like playing guitar because I wanted to be in a rock band, but the value that was sitting behind all of that was that I wanted to perform. I wanted to be able to affect people. I wanted to be able to lift them up, maybe make them happy, make them smile, give them energy, right? And I realized that I can do that through the medium that you're watching me right here, through a YouTube video. I can reach out to thousands of you out there. I can reach out to thousands of you out there, maybe give you an idea, maybe kind of spur you on to do something that you've always wanted to do. And to be honest, that gives me an amount of fulfillment that, it really makes me feel truly happy to be alive. And I really feel that I'm on my purpose. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to the pain here. Because speaking of purpose, I found that the pain of regret oftentimes follows when you're not on your purpose, when you haven't found your purpose, And here's an awesome thing, is that, you hear me say, you're not on your purpose, and then someone will say to me, oh, but Keenan, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, right? I'm going to college. I'm double majoring. Because I'm jumping between these two things. It's like, this pays this much money and that pays that much money. And then they're trying, probably one of the most baffling things to me personally is that I knew what I wanted to do since I was very, very young. I knew exactly what I was going to do. And I knew that one way or another, I was either going to get there or die trying, right? And there were times where it was tough. There was times where I was on the couch, like I got kicked out of my own apartment, living with my best friend, and I don't blame him for kicking me out, because I owed him, like over $1,000 for him taking care of my butt, right? To pay my bills, to pay my rent. It was very nice of him to cover me for that long, for as long as he did, and he didn't need to do that. Eventually came to the point where he had to kick me out, right? And I had to go find somewhere else to live. And I ended up staying for about, 6 months with my friend's parents, right? I was sleeping on their couch, right? It's one of their couches with a futon, like opens up into a bed, right? And it was in his mother's office, right? She was nice enough to let me stay in the office. I set up my computer in there. And this was right when I had gotten the call from Riot that they wanted to give me an art test. They wanted to see if I could become a splash artist, right? So here's the other interesting thing, is that I don't think this necessarily happens to everybody, but I will say this, is that going back to the pain of discipline, the pain of discipline is situations like I just told you. Pains that will come are things that will test you. They will test your strength. They will test your willpower. How bad do you really want it? How bad do you really want to get that job? How badly do you really want to work for a company like Riot or like Blizzard Entertainment? You're going to have to try over and over and over again. I was applying to be an artist at Blizzard since I was 16 years old. I look back on the portfolio that I sent over there and I was like, ooh, like, it's okay. You can tell there was some effort in it, but, obviously I had a ways to go. But I kept trying. I went to conventions where I met people. I went to conventions where I met the president of, Blizzard Entertainment. He probably doesn't remember me at all or probably even cared, but it's like I'm meeting these people. I'm talking to the art director, Samwise Didier of Blizzard Entertainment. I'm giving them pictures. I'm like, hey, I made this for you. Here, please take it, and like they're like asking me to sign it. It was like the stupid, did you guys see the Murloc? I did a picture of a Murloc. You can see it on my DeviantArt. But he's like riding a turtle. And I gave that to Justin Thavarat. I don't know if he's still with the company, but in fact, I don't know if anybody that I met was still with the company. But anyway, besides Samwise, I definitely know he's there. But like I said, I was put in a position, or I placed myself in a position where I knew I was going to get refused and rejected over and over and over again, but I knew eventually I was going to make it happen. And you want to know how I knew it was going to happen? Was because if nobody else gave me a job, then I was just going to kind of make one for myself. It's like I would just keep developing my craft until it was impossible for someone to ignore me, until it was impossible for people not to want my skill. And that's what the pain of discipline comes into. The pain of discipline basically comes into that, because you have to be ready to be rejected. You have to be ready to kind of face some harsh circumstances. You have to be ready to be sort of like I don't want to say it like kicked out of your apartment, but things like that, right? Tragedies are going to happen. Things are going to happen. They're going to really test you. And I will say this, right before you get to that breaking point, right before things turn in your favor, the tides turn in your favor, you will be tested. You will be tested. You will be put through the hardest challenge that you've ever faced. And it's going to be up to you whether you're going to quit at that point, like 99.9% of everybody else, or if you're going to hang in just that little bit longer, right? And I know that's kind of a dangerous thing because it's like, well, like my family's starving and my house like burned down and there's like a volcano exploding in the distance. I just got to hang in there a little bit longer. Like obviously, do what you have to take care of yourself, take care of your family and all that stuff. But understand that, to a certain extent, you are really going to be tested. You're really going to be tested. And that's what the pain of discipline is. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so say you are in a point where you can either choose to hang in there, or if you don't, right, something terrible could happen, like your other responsibilities, like say your family or your loved ones, they may suffer for it, right? In those specific situations, I would ask you to weigh the two, right? What is the pain of discipline going to happen? How is it going to affect you and how is it going to affect other people? Versus what that pain of regret is going to feel like if you give in, right? Are you going to regret giving up this opportunity? Are there other Here's the other thing is that sometimes you can let go of an opportunity because there's opportunities always presenting themselves every day, right? So be careful with like getting hooked on like, I have to work here, right? I really wanted to work at Blizzard Entertainment. And when I got the job at Riot, I was like, oh, this is great. Now I can get more experience. I can start building my portfolio more, getting experience in the field. So that way I can go over to Blizzard, right? It was almost like Riot was going to be my little stepping stone. I was going to freaking do a little space jump from here and then jump over to Blizzard. But the interesting thing that I found at the time, Riot was growing, right? Riot was growing and eventually got to this point where, we were ranked, I forget what site like ranks like game popularity, but eventually League of Legends took over World of Warcraft, right? And I remember the day that happened. We were like number one in Korea, and then we became number one in the world. And I was like, whoa, oh, that's so cool. Wow, like the game company that I thought I was going to like be at for a little bit ended up being the right, like I dropped into the right place, like fancy that, right? And then slowly but surely, I start seeing people from Blizzard Entertainment. They're now taking off to come where I'm working. I'm interviewing people from Blizzard Entertainment coming over here saying, oh, Keenan, I would love to work with you. I would love to work with you at your company. I would love to work at Riot Games. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on, right? It's just like, it's weird how things like that happen. So, and that made me feel really good. And all those things came about by allowing myself to feel the pain of discipline, okay? So, I'm going to take a quick minute to get some question catapults in here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please cast your questions over the castle walls, as has been instructed in this beautiful animated video from Brandon Liu, and I'll answer your questions. And to wrap up, we're going to be going on to a couple more things, and that is, speaking of pain of discipline, pain of regret. The other part of this quote is that the pain of regret, or the pain of discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. But the interesting thing is that the disciplines you must endure day by day, day by day. You just got this little weight on you. You're walking up the hill. You're walking up the mountain. Or you can choose, right, to say, you know what, I want to be comfortable. I'm not going to carry this weight up the mountain. I'm just going to take a leisurely stroll. I'll just, kind of camp out a little bit. Maybe I'll just kind of like set up and just settle. I'll settle at the, first little foothill of the mountain, right? And then, but the problem is that I really believe that ounce that you should have carried that day gets added onto you anyway. It gets added onto you at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year. And then eventually 5-10 years down the road, those ounces that you should have carried are now placed back on your back. They're placed down back onto you, and they basically crush you. They crush you down because you didn't choose to you didn't choose to carry the weight of discipline day by day. It's almost like you want to think of it as you can't escape. You can't escape who you truly could become, who you truly know you want to become, and who you truly know that you can become. who you believe you're supposed to be. That weight will never escape you. You either choose to carry it day by day, or it will come crashing down on you at the end of it all. Okay, so and that is a little bit negative, but it is a good thing to understand. We try to be positive on here, but it's good to look at the negative. So let's go ahead and answer a couple questions. Specifically talking about thoughtful art stuff, we're gonna save that for next Tuesday, because you guys know I'm gonna be out of town this next week. I'm not gonna be doing shows. I'll let you guys know on Facebook or something. Okay, Sooty Bear is asking a great question. I was wondering what would be your advice for getting a Comic-Con table. I'm getting my first table at Salt Lake Comic-Con this year, and I would love to know some advice. Oh, awesome. Sooty Bear, my advice to you is that, cons like Salt Lake Comic-Con are getting big fast, so you want to make sure that you get in there as quickly as possible. But say all the booths are taken up by now. There's also like Fantasy Con. There's also like, I don't know, there's a bunch of different cons that come through here, right? I forget, there was a few that I did in this area. But anyway, think of smaller cons. Start smaller cons and then work your way up to Salt Lake, or just go to Salt Lake first. My first convention was actually, Salt Lake is our city here, and that was the con that I did first, right? It was actually the first annual. So, you want to contact him and get in there as quickly as possible, because surprisingly, a artist alley table is like $200. Whoa, you're like, that's so much money. But think about this. It's like you got prints, you're selling them for $10 a piece, right? You got tiny little prints. It's like you got to sell 20 of those over 2 days, and then you paid for your table. You basically gotten free exposure to thousands of people, talked to thousands of people, handed out your card to a bunch of people, prospective employers, freelancers, freelance clients, and all for what? You paid $200 up front and got it all back, plus the time of like setting up and this and that. But it's an amazing experience. I highly recommend. I did cons for a year, totally got burnt out. Now I'm taking a break for this year, but it is a really good way to meet people. It's a good way to meet other artists, your booth buddies, right? People that are sitting next to you, across from you. You make good friends that way. So I'd highly recommend you guys do that. And you can meet a lot of awesome people from the industry there. All right, next question. Thank you, Sooty Bear. Okay, Swiss Fonda is saying something about a background, but it does relate to mentality. I like to draw stuff. He or she says, sometimes I hate to draw stuff like a beautiful background that are very important to an art piece, but it gives me an unenjoyable time. So to do it, okay, so you don't enjoy doing backgrounds, so you just drop it. Any advice to overcome the struggle? Okay, well, first of all, I would recommend that you check out the Jinx episode where I talked about gradient maps, because I lay out a very simple way for you to paint your backgrounds in black and white, just simple black and white, just lay it down, and then you can pick the colors to go over top of it. That might help you out, because I didn't really like doing backgrounds. But you know what I did when I was growing up? I chose not to draw them. I was like, I'm just going to focus on characters, because that's what my strength is, and I'm going to get in there, I'm going to figure it out, and then one day when I need to learn backgrounds, I'll figure it out, right? I'll figure it out slowly. Figure it out at your own pace, right? Do what you like to do. If you truly don't enjoy it, then don't do it, okay? All right, quick question. Kienan, is it okay to sell fan art like on places like Society 6? If everybody else is doing it and they're okay with it, then yeah. Technically, it is like Riot's property. Technically, you're selling their characters. But, unless you're raking in like hundreds of thousands of dollars, being like turned into a giant conglomerate of like fan art and prints and stuff like that, Riot just simply isn't going to care. They're not going to care about some artists making, a couple of $1,000s a year off of their work. They just don't care. Okay. Otherwise, people like Sakimi-chan and all these people that do all this other fan art, they would have been shut down by now. So don't worry about that. Do fan art and enjoy it. Alrighty then. A couple more questions, because you guys got good ones. Birchcraft saying, if you enjoy art and believe you enjoy it more than a hobby, but aren't willing to spend almost all your time practicing and mastering, do you think that it isn't for you? Or is it just laziness, happiness issues, and other areas of your life affecting your decision making? This is going to be something that is mostly, it's up to you, because I'm not living your life, but I will say this. And this leads into another note that I made here, right? And that is, if you enjoy art and you believe you enjoy it more than a hobby. The way that I take that as is that you want to do it professionally, right? You want to do this for your life. You want art to be everything. You wake up in the morning, you get up from your bed like I do, you sit down, and then you do it for 8-10 hours a day, right? With breaks, right? Because I work on breaks, right? But I will say this, is that if you want to do it professionally, then I would urge you not to kid yourself. You got to ask yourself this. It's like, where am I going? If I keep up at this rate, right, with the habits that I'm having of honing my craft, creating my skill, where am I going to be in a year? Where am I going to be in 5 years? Will I be working at that place? Or will it still just be a hobby? And here's the other thing. There's nothing wrong with it being a hobby. There's nothing wrong with being an amateur artist. There's really nothing wrong with it. You don't have to compare yourself to anybody else. I'm obviously an amateur guitar player, right? It's like, I don't care if anybody knows or hears my music because it's for me. I just do it for me, and it's fun. It's a hobby, and that's all it's ever going to be. So, but if art is not going to be your life, it's not going to be your passion, then figure out what you are passionate about, because everybody has something amazing to bring to the world. Everybody has a talent. Everybody has a skill that they can hone and get paid very well for, right? Because they're in the top 0.01% of people that do that thing, right? Everybody has the capacity to develop that skill, get paid well for it, and live a life of happiness and fulfillment, okay? So if art isn't it, then figure out what it is. And don't be afraid of being an amateur artist. There's nothing wrong with that. In the end, it really is all for you. It's all for your happiness. So chase that happiness. All right, last question. I'm taking more since it is Thoughtful Thursday. Last question. Sorry, I can't answer all your questions. They're so good. They're so good. They're so good. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna run through these last few ones. Oh, shoot. Okay, Fishy Pixels is asking a great one. What actions should be taken when you get to the point where you aren't getting any motivation, or the point where you need to force yourself to do art daily? Forcing yourself. Okay, I like that phrase, forcing yourself. Because sometimes you will have to force yourself, but understand that if you really want to do it, if you really here's what I've learned, is that if you can get the vision, right, of where you want to go, if you create the promise, right, you make the promise clear, then paying the price, right, price, you can pay the price easily when the promise is clear. So what I would ask you to do, Fishy Pixels, is get in your mind the promise. Get in your mind the vision of what you're going to do with that skill. What things are you going to be able to illustrate? What things can you do to work for that company or to create, your story, right? I've done both. It's like, I wanted to create a comic, so I did, right? I wanted to work in video games, so I did. And I had those visions long before I got there. That way, I didn't just waltz into Riot Games and I was like, oh, hey, yeah, this is a really cool place. Yeah, this is a good dream I should have had 10 years ago. It's like, it didn't work that way. I had that dream for a long, long time. And that's why I was able to get up every day and pay the price, because I had that promise. I had that vision in front of me, staring me in the face every day. I knew where I wanted to go. So if you're having some trouble with motivation, I wouldn't suggest just pushing yourself through it. You need more willpower and force yourself to do it. What I would suggest is that you need to figure out where it is you're going. See that vision, and then you getting up and finding that willpower will come second nature. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry I can't answer all your questions, but we are going to go ahead and end today's show. We're ending 225 of the KNKL Thoughtful. Hope you guys have gotten some good stuff out of this. People on Twitch, thank you guys for joining me live as usual. People on YouTube, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, click that little link if you want to go get some PSDs and special things. Go ahead and head on over there, and we'll have ourselves a jolly good time. So thank you guys once again. I will talk to you later. Remember, no shows next week because I'm going to be out of town. So you guys stay strong, and I will see you I'll be returning May 5th. So until then, you guys take care. See ya.